So let's take a look at factoring review. So here are the types, just to refamiliarize ourselves with again. So GCF, that's the greatest common factor. You always want to look at that first, no matter what. What can you divide from every single term? So in this case, we have 2x squared plus 18. Now sometimes it's just a number, sometimes it's a number and a variable, and sometimes it's just a variable. And then of course there's always the chance that there is sometimes nothing to divide out. Now in these cases, they all have GCF. So in this, we can look at it, we have 2x squared plus 18, and so we can divide out a 2. So the GCF is 2. Now when you write it, it's important that whatever you divide out, you put in front. And so the 2 comes out, and now we're left with x squared, and then 18 over 2 is plus 9. And so that is factored completely. Now number 3, we have 3x squared plus 14x. So in this case, there is no number that is common with the 3 and the 14, but I do see that a variable I can divide out. And so x, and we're left with 3x plus 14. Again, really important to put that x in front, because number 1, this is a quadratic. If you don't put the x in front, then you're making a linear equation, which is something different. And then if we were to solve it, just remember that you make x equals, you set each piece equal to 0. That would be x equals 0. And then this one, oh, there's a little bit of work involved in this one. You would set it to 0 and then subtract 14 from both sides. And so divide by 3, you would get x equals negative 14/3. Now we don't have to solve, but just a review on how to do it, just continue to factor these. The next set, factoring polynomials where a equals 1. So in this case, there is no GCF, and so what method we use here is the x method to help us out. Now, if you don't need the x method, and eventually, it would be good to move away from it if possible, but if you are having trouble with it, then this is definitely a tool you can use. So when you're using the x method, you're looking at what multiplies to the top, a times c, that adds to b. Now it's always a times c. Now in this case, a is 1, and so 1 times 16 is just 16. So, just taking a look at that. And then the bottom number is a positive 10. So you look at what multiplies to 16 that adds to 10, and that is 8 times 2. So these are the factors, and because a is 1, it's just x plus 8 times x plus 2. Then you can finish up the rest of those as well. Now factoring special product properties. So notice there are no b values in the center. Another thing that you could notice is that we could square root. These are perfect squares here, and so you can think of it as the difference of two squares. If I can square at the front and square at the back, and then I rewrite them. So you square root the front term and then the back term, front and back, that's what I'm saying, and then you write a conjugate pair. So they're the same exact terms but opposite signs in the center. So for example, x squared minus 9, square root of x squared is x, so you write in the front. Square root of 9 is 3, and then just opposite signs in the center. Again, difference of two squares. Difference means subtracting and then squares, okay? And so let's do number 10. So I can square root the front and square root the back. So square root of 16h squared is 4h. And square root of 49 is 7. So it is 4h plus 7 and 4h minus 7. Now don't rewrite it. So for example, number 11, just leave the 100 in the front. So the number in the front and the variable in the back, and that's still fine. Now let's factor when a is greater than 1. So first you look at, is there a GCF? In this case, there is not. So what we're going to use is what's called the x in the box method. X in reverse box method, however you call it. So we're going to factor using the x method, then we have to use the reverse box in order to figure out what the factors are. So we always do a times c, so 3 times negative 2, that is negative 6, and then negative 5 is the bottom number, so b. So what multiplies to a times c that adds to b, and so this is going to be negative 6 and positive 1, always double check. Negative 6 times 1 is a negative 6. Negative 6 plus 1 is a negative 5. Now we have the box here to remind us. We fill it in. So 3x squared goes in the top position. Negative 2 goes down here. Then our factors on the right, you write it on the side. Negative 6, and remember there's an x there, and this is a positive x. And so factor the 3x squared first. Now if it's positive, leave it as positive. Don't make it negative. And so what multiplies to make 3x squared? That is 3x and x. So we have to think about where should 3x go. 3x should go here on the top because it's a factor of the 6x. So we write 3x and then x on the side. 3x times x is 3x squared. And then now we fill out the rest. X times what is x? X times what is x? That is 1. And then we look at the last one. 3x times what is negative 6x? Well, that is negative 2. Then you check the last box. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, so that is correct. So usually if you make a mistake, you usually find it there. Now we just write our factors. So I have 3x at the top, 3x and 1. If there's no sign there, it's positive. And then here, you write the other factor multiplying to this, x minus 2 here. And also, it's a good thing if you want to multiply it back, you can use a box method if you want, whatever method you want, and you should get your answer back. Now, as a reminder, if you needed to do zero product property to solve, this right one would be x equals 2. And this one, you could set it equal to 0 to solve. And when you do that, you would find it's negative a third. Now, for these, again, just factor. The very last thing is GCF and factoring. So we look at, can we divide something out of every single term? In this case, we can divide out a 5x squared. So if it's only a single type of variable, look at the last variable if it's written in descending order. And so the x squared, that's the lowest one, and so I can divide out an x squared out of every single term as well as a 5. Makes it a lot nicer for us. So take out the 5x squared, whatever you divide out goes in the front, and we're left with x squared plus 3x plus 2. Then what we can do is apply the x method. That's why it's GCF and factoring. So again, the top is, you're only looking at in here. So the top is 2 that multiplies to 3. So 2 times 1 is 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. I'm sorry, 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 plus 1 is 3. And then so let's write the factors. The 5x squared is still in front. Then we're writing these factors here. X plus 2 times x plus 1. And there's our final answer. Now, if we needed to solve, use zero product property. You have 1, 2, 3 different x's here. So x equals 0, right? 5x squared equals 0. And so divide by 5, that would be 0. So that's how it's 0. Then you get negative 2 and negative 1. I hope this helps you out.